The rainbow was considered serpent of the sky. Women were serpents because they experienced a 28-day menstrual cycle, like the 28-day cycle of the moon, another circular-shaped object already named serpent. The head of the serpent represented the first 14 days of the waning or descending phase. Time was named serpent because it measured change from night to day, based upon the interplay of two circular serpentine objects, the sun and moon. Even milk, a product of mammalian animals, was named serpent, as it was produced by women who had been transformed into mothers following 9 months, 9 lunar or serpentine cycles of gestation of the fetus. Massey, 1974. Most importantly, the serpent displayed attributes that were similar to the operation of the mind. Snakes were seen to be able to shed their skins and transform into a new skin, leaving behind the old, dead skin. This process was likened to the transformation which takes place when the individual transforms and leaves behind the dead state of consciousness of mental slavery and moves into a new state of soul eye or mastership. Snakes were able to stare at their prey and mesmerize it in a trance so they could move in and swallow it. Mesmerization has often been deemed the use of mind control, the use of invisible, rapidly moving energy too fast for the physical eye to see. It also alludes to the master individual's capacity to hold a symbol still and thereby focus on it in order to swallow or understand the whole of its meaning. Phallic associations with serpents are all too obvious. The male sex organ, the penis, is shaped like a snake, and just as some snakes spurt out a white milky fluid that affects life, poison death, so does the male penis spit out a white milky fluid that affects life, sperm life. Women also possess a snake-like sex organ, the clitoris. The female vaginal tract into which the male penis enters is a long tract like a snake, as is the long tube-shaped uterus, the organ at the end of the vaginal tract, which is the actual womb of life. Thus, the reproductive organs of both males and females are all serpentine in structure, those of the male projecting outward and the major portion of the females projecting inward. The astronomical, esoteric symbolic use of the snake was defined in an earlier section, where it was stated that the sun and moon, being circular, represented the circular mouth of the serpent and were named serpent. The different seasons of the year could be predicted by observing the movement of the sun. Furthermore, longer periods of time in which there were major cyclical changes in rainfall patterns and glacial periods due to shifts in the Earth's polar axis were measured by the sun. It took almost 26,000 years to circle the relative central star system, the Pleiades. Again, the months were measured by lunar cycles, seasons by sun cycles, and geological and glacial periods by star cycles. Finally, another way of analyzing the word Uraeus is to look at its numerical value. The idea being that similar ideas have similar vibratory rates or numerical correspondences. This is an important way for us to further explore the manner in which many ideas are related to the Uraeus concept. The first letter of Uraeus is U, the 21st letter of the English alphabet. 21 is produced by multiplying 3 times 7. 21 can also be expressed as 2 equals IR3, which again is the triad concept of Uraeus, e.g., total God equals good God equals bad God. From the Black Gnostic Study, 1967, material, we can explore a number of ideas which pertain to the number 21. The macrocosmic man chart relates the number 21 to the third decanate of Scorpio, the musical note C, the second lumbar of the spinal vertebra, the 21st Masonic degree, and Masonic name Noachite Prussian Knight, Arcanum X-12, two-headed eagle, the spiritual aspect of sex, two intelligences, or soul, united and occupying one soulmate system, the 50th gate, or gate of Jubilee, the degree of perfection, the exercise of the functions of adeptship, unity with light, genius, Homo sapiens maximus, Christ, Imhotep, high priest, sons, daughters of light, angelic consciousness, and spiritual consciousness. The microcosmic man chart draws an analogy between the number 21 and the astrological sign Scorpio, instinct, pugnacity, urge, aggressive, positive instinct, occult understanding, and negative instinct, death, misused sex. Aleister Crowley's 1970 book 777 provides a list of numerical correspondences which links many different symbols to their equivalent root meanings based upon their numerical values. Considering the root idea of Uraeus to be a serpent, Crowley's book defines its numerical equivalent as 1919. 19 corresponds to the astrological sign Leo, ruled by the sun, center, king, general attribute of Egyptian gods, Horus, queen scale of color, deep purple or black, Greek god Demeter, born by lions, precious stones, cat's eyes, plants, sunflower, Roman god of Venus, repressing the fire of Vulcan, magical powers, Western mysticism, trading wild beasts and magical weapons, the discipline. We have shown that the worship of the serpent in Egypt is ancient. Even before the time of the recorded dynasties in Egypt, the serpent was well established and worshipped as a symbol of God. In pre-dynastic times, ancient Egypt was divided into two kingdoms, a northern and southern kingdom, or Lower and Upper Egypt. Upper Egypt worshipped primarily the vulture, which later became the hawk eagle. Lower Egypt worshipped the serpent, or Uraeus. The great center of Uraeus worship existed in the Nile Delta of Lower Egypt, at the city named Per-Wachet or Wachet. The vulture, on the other hand, was worshipped at the city called Nekhbet. The Uraeus god was called Uachet, and the vulture god, Nekhbet or Nekhbet. During the early dynastic period, the kings proclaimed their sovereignty over both Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt by naming themselves the Lord of the Shrine of the Vulture and Uraeus. Budge, 1969. Thus, in ancient Egypt, the Uraeus was a symbol of divinity and royalty. Ancient Egyptians pictured their god Ra wearing two Uraeus serpents on his forehead, whereas the enemy of the god Ra was the evil serpent Apap or Typhon, Massey, 1974. The early Africans depicted two serpents, the good serpent Uraeus and the bad serpent Apap. It is a statement of mental slavery that today's Black African knows only of the bad serpent and is without knowledge of the true God as symbolized by Uraeus, the good serpent. By studying ideas for their relevance to individual life, one no longer takes things to mean what others say they mean. The self can be extricated from the web of slavery-type social conditioning. True freedom has not been achieved today because many African peoples and their leaders are excommunicated from their souls. They are not in continual contact with their inner selves nor with nature. Rather, they only occasionally seek a glimpse of themselves. Their soul vision contains a film over it, and the reality is seen as unreal. As such, reality is not brought into physical manifestation. The dream is real. The failure to make it manifest is the unreality. There we were and here we are, struggling to be free, yet unable to define the essence of that which we wish to liberate. It is time that we ask ourselves, what is the self, soul, or essence of Black people? What is the basis of the cultural lifestyle that Black people are attempting to perpetuate? Truly, we cannot determine any of this until we first know ourselves as individuals, and then collectively as a people.